I wasn't looking for a new job, not really, but the listing had a strange pull. Night caretaker needed, temporary graveyard watch, quiet work, room provided. No pay mentioned, just a number and an address. I applied on impulse, burnt out, broke, and out of options. The graveyard was on the outskirts of a forgotten town called Marrow Hollow, the kind of place where fog sticks to your skin and locals don't ask questions. I arrived just before dusk. My tires crunched along a gravel path flanked by rusted iron fencing. The gate swung open by itself. I tried to laugh, but it caught in my throat. A man in a weathered suit waited near the caretaker's shack. He didn't greet me, just handed me a thick, leather-bound book and a single brass key. "You'll log anything unusual," he said. "Midnight check-ins, don't leave the grounds, 1 week." Then he turned and walked into the mist. I didn't see him again. The shack was bare, a narrow bed, a wooden desk with an oil lamp, a single dusty window. The book he gave me, the caretaker's ledger, was heavier than it looked. Most of its pages were blank, but a few held strange, cryptic notes. Whispers from row 9, too dark to see. Saw a man standing on grave 313. Gone when I looked again. Do not look into the chapel. I told myself it was a joke, that someone had gone a little too hard into the spooky theme. Still, I double-checked the lock on the door that night. My first round was just before midnight. The graveyard was quiet, unnaturally so. No owls, no insects, just the crunch of my boots and the hum of the wind that didn't move the trees. Then I heard it. Scraping, stone against stone, slow, deliberate. It came from the northwest section, near a sunken mausoleum. I shined my flashlight, but nothing. The noise stopped the second I stepped closer. I marked it in the ledger when I returned. Scraping sound, no source, NW side. By the second night, I noticed small things. My blanket slightly moved when I woke, the closet door opened just an inch, the oil lamp empty even though I hadn't lit it. I logged every detail. The third night, I found footprints, bare, leading from the cemetery to the shack's door, only one set, none going back. The chapel stood at the far edge of the graveyard. It was nothing more than a husk, broken stained glass, rotted pews, a collapsed roof. But that night, as the sky opened with rain, I saw light flickering from inside. Candles. I should have turned back. I should have stayed in the shack and locked the door. But I didn't. I stepped inside. The air felt wrong. Too still, too thick. Candles surrounded the altar, their flames swaying though there was no breeze. The stone floor was cracked. In the center, a large hole freshly dug. That's when I heard the scraping again. Closer. Then a hand, pale, gray, twitching, reaching slowly from the soil. And a voice, not aloud but pressed into my skull like cold fingers. "Finish the ledger." I ran. I didn't stop until I was back inside the shack, soaked and shaking. I flipped open the book. Pages were filling on their own, writing etching itself into the parchment, line by line, not in my handwriting. He sees now. He remembers. My hands trembled. Then, the next line appeared. "You've done this before." I tore through the book. Page after page, the same name appeared. My name, written again and again over centuries. Dates from the 1800s, the 1950s, 10 years ago, every time followed by the same final entry: caretaker consumed, ledger passed on. "No," I whispered. "This isn't right. I just got here. I dropped the ledger. It fell shut with a heavy thud. I needed to leave. I threw open the shack door. The rain had stopped. Fog rolled thick along the headstones. I bolted for the gate. But the path was gone. In its place was more graveyard, endless rows, and the names, all mine, dozens of headstones, each with my full name, some dated centuries ago, others tomorrow. I fell to my knees, breath ragged. The sky was too quiet, the world too still. Then I heard footsteps. Not behind, not ahead, beside me. I turned and saw myself. Not a mirror, not a hallucination. Me, older, worn, hollow-eyed, dressed in the same clothes I wore now. He held the ledger, no damage, no torn pages, perfect condition. He gave me a tired smile, one I somehow recognized. "You always run," he said, "but you always come back." He walked past me, calm, purposeful, back into the shack, back into my place. The door closed behind him. I stood there shaking and turned slowly. A dim light now shone from the chapel again, and far beyond the mist, I saw headlights pulling in from the road. Someone new is coming, and when they arrive, I'll be the one waiting with the key. I found the graveyard by accident. It wasn't on any map. No road signs pointed to it. I was just out walking, something I did more often after the divorce. wandering old country trails behind the cottage I was renting. That day the fog had rolled in thick, swallowing the trees in pale silence. That's when I saw the wrought iron gate. It stood half open, rusted, wrapped in ivy so thick I almost missed it. Beyond it, time had stopped. Dozens, maybe hundreds of tombstones stood crooked in the moss-covered ground. Some were nothing more than smoothed stumps. Others leaned as if whispering to each other. A crumbling stone chapel slouched at the far edge, missing its roof, the wooden door hanging open like a mouth caught mid-scream. I knew I should turn back, but something pulled me forward. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was loneliness, but I stepped through the gate. The air changed immediately. Heavy. Still. It wasn't cold, but I shivered. I checked my phone. No signal. Typical. I wandered slowly, reading names long faded into the stone. A few graves had strange symbols etched into them, circles crossed by lines or eyes with no pupils. I told myself it was just old religious iconography. That's what I wanted to believe. Near the center of the graveyard, I found a fresh grave. The dirt was damp and loose. No grass had grown over it yet, but the headstone was worn like the others, weathered with age. That didn't make sense. I crouched down to brush the name clean. My fingers froze before they touched it. It already was clean, freshly scrubbed, as if someone came here regularly. That's when I heard the bell. It wasn't loud, just a soft single chime, echoing from the chapel. I stared at it, the dark doorway yawning in the fog. There was no bell tower, no rope, but the sound rang again. Chime. Against every instinct, I walked toward the chapel. Inside was dim. The floor was stone, slick with wet moss. Wooden pews, broken and warped, lined the space. Candles burned at the front, even though the room was clearly abandoned. On the altar lay a book. Open. I stepped closer, heart hammering. The pages were filled with names, dozens of them, each followed by a date. Some were centuries old, others only a few weeks back. The last name on the list? Samuel Bright, May 16th. Today's date, my name. I stumbled back, breath catching. There was no way. That's when the lid of a coffin behind the altar began to shift. I hadn't noticed it before. Black, covered in vines, but clearly a coffin. It creaked open. I didn't wait to see what was inside. I sprinted into the graveyard, legs churning through thick mist. The path was gone. The gate, nowhere to be seen. Just tombstones, endless and quiet. I kept running until I collapsed next to a grave. I was panting, dizzy. Then I heard it. Soft, wet footsteps. Behind me, I turned. No one. But the ground, it was wet. Not with rain, with something thicker, darker. The footprints were leading from the direction of the fresh grave. Right toward me. I ran again blindly. I tripped over a low stone, smashing my knees, and landed in front of a mausoleum I hadn't seen before. Its door was slightly open. I crawled inside. It was silent, stale. The air was heavy with rot and something sweet like rotting flowers. Inside were shelves. Each held a single urn or coffin, most covered in cobwebs. But in the center was something new. A mirror. Not a polished one. This looked ancient, silver-tarnished, glass cracked in the center like a spiderweb. And in the reflection, I wasn't alone. Behind me stood a figure, tall, thin. Its face was mine, but wrong. The eyes were hollow, empty sockets. The mouth was far too wide. It didn't move, just stared. Then it smiled, my smile, and it stepped out of the mirror. I don't remember getting out. I remember waking up, outside the gate, on the road. No fog, birds chirping. I thought I dreamed it. I hoped I dreamed it, until I got home. There, waiting on my doorstep, was a package. No return address. Inside was a photograph, a black and white picture of the graveyard, of the chapel, and standing in the doorway was me, but older, hollow-eyed, holding the book and smiling. I still live in that cottage. I tried to tell someone, anyone, but the photo disappeared. My phone won't take pictures of the graveyard. I've tried to destroy the book, the name etched in my memory, but every morning I wake up with dirt under my nails. I haven't gone back. But sometimes I hear the bell, just one soft chime, and I know I'm being called, back below the moss. It was supposed to be romantic, a gesture, something different. I found the graveyard online, listed under Forgotten Landmarks. Elm Hollow Cemetery, tucked deep in the woods, no longer maintained, no official entrance. Ivy-covered walls, weather-worn headstones, a place where the living rarely wandered and the dead, I hoped, kept their secrets. I brought Clara there for our anniversary. I had candles, a blanket, wine, even that dumb little speaker she liked. You love spooky stuff, I'd told her, grinning, guiding her past the twisted iron gate that creaked like it hadn't moved in years. She had smiled, hesitantly. I didn't notice then how her hand trembled in mine. We set up near the center, under a massive drooping willow tree. Its limbs brushed the tops of tilted graves, leaves whispering constantly. The breeze tasted metallic, thick with damp earth and old stone. We sat, ate, talked, but she was quiet. Too quiet. Cold? I asked. She shook her head but wouldn't meet my eyes. It's just this place. It feels wrong. I laughed it off. That's the charm. She didn't smile. Later, after she fell asleep against my shoulder, I walked a few paces away to grab the speaker. It had stopped playing. The light was still on, but no sound. When I picked it up, it buzzed in my hand, hot, like it had been screaming all night and only now gone silent. Behind me, the willow's limbs shivered. No wind. I turned. Clara was still sleeping, motionless beneath the leaves. But something felt off. Her body looked flatter, like the blanket had sunken in. And her face, though turned from me, was angled too far, unnaturally far. I took a step forward, and she sat up abruptly. "Don't," she said. Her voice was too calm, too even. She was facing away from me, staring into the rows of gravestones like they were calling her. "Don't what?" I asked, voice cracking. She didn't respond. I stood there, heart racing, staring at her back. Then I heard it, a faint, dragging sound behind me. Stones scraping earth, slow, deliberate. I whipped around. Nothing. But the headstones, had they always been so close? One in particular, its writing completely worn away, seemed only a few feet from where I stood. I didn't remember it being there. I turned back. Clara was gone. Only the blanket remained, undisturbed. I ran to it, shouting her name. Nothing. No response. I circled the tree, frantic. Called into the trees, the woods, the dark, nothing. Then I heard the whisper, so soft it might have been the wind or the willow. "She never loved you." I froze. "Clara?" I whispered. "She loved him, the one before, the one you replaced." I backed away from the tree, tripping over a root. My flashlight flickered. That's when I saw it. A grave, just barely exposed beneath fallen branches. The dirt disturbed, recent. The name etched crudely into the stone. Clara Wyatt. 1996-2022. My breath caught in my throat. No, she was right here. This wasn't possible. And then I remembered. The quietness. Her cold hands. The way she never blinked, never ate. The willow branches parted behind me. She stepped out. But it wasn't Clara. Not really. She looked like her, but she moved differently. Jerky. Like her limbs were puppeted by strings only she could feel. Her eyes were glassy, distant, and her mouth too wide, grinning. "You brought me back," she whispered. "You said you'd love me forever, even in death." I stumbled backward. This isn't real. Love me or lie beside me. Then she lunged. I don't remember running, only the sound of branches tearing, of something snarling behind me. Her voice, now deeper, wrong, calling my name again and again like a curse. When I reached the gate, it slammed shut behind me, rusted iron locking itself. I collapsed on the road. Dawn was rising. When I looked back, the cemetery was gone, only trees. It's been weeks. Every night I dream of her face, twisted, dead, still whispering. And this morning, I found dirt beneath my fingernails, and a single strand of long black hair on my pillow. She's not done with me, not until I lie beside her, forever.